Hey guys, in this video, Tiff and I are going to share with you how we do our year-end planning to make sure our years are aligned and successful. What's up guys, I'm Mike Claudio. This is Tiffany Claudio, my wife, the original studette. And what we're going to share with you today is some of the best practices we utilize to continue to plan and dream and goal set as a couple to make sure that we stay aligned, make sure we stay on the same page, and make sure that we're actually headed in a unified direction. Because I have seen, especially in that entrepreneurial space, where the spouse that's the entrepreneur is growing and building and strategizing and evolving, and the other spouse can sometimes get left behind, left out, or just in general not part of the equation to make sure that that destination is aligned with both outcomes in mind. And so we started our planning journey specifically about 8 years ago when she was in corporate America, I was in corporate America. We were both trying to evolve our careers, evolve our life. You know, we didn't have a family yet. You know, we were very early married, or early in our marriage. And ultimately, we realized that like she was enjoying her work life and work family. I was enjoying my work life and work family, but we really weren't doing a great job connecting in the middle and making sure that we were both operating towards desired outcome. This is how I remember. How do you remember? Like, I struggle remembering how we started.
Well, it's been a long time. A lot's happened.
Yeah, you're old.
I'm learning from you, though.
Yeah.
No, and I think how we got started was we were doing the marriage study, like the e-group marriage study.
Was it Greg Rochelle?
Yeah. And it was talking about just like making sure you are communicating through the good and the bad, or like of those things. And it just so happened that came upon New Year's, and both of us were like, we don't really like New Year's resolutions because they die off so fast.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, so like, how can we basically take that a step further? Let's set goals, because we were both very goal oriented at work. We enjoyed checking off goals and accomplishing them. So we sat down and we said, okay, what are our goals for next year? And then you've always been good at the reverse engineering goals and like then creating the game plan. So I think that's how initially it got started. But like when we started that 8 years ago, it was like 1 or 2 goals. And then 2016, I think you said we had like 17.
Yeah, like it's evolved over time to the point where like in 2022, we had 130 different targets across different categories. And like we only completed 58 of them, but in 2016, we only had 17 total. And I think we completed 12 of them. So it's all about being intentional. But with your spouse, if you're struggling getting them on the same page, one of the first steps we took was she wrote down what she wanted out of life independently, and I wrote down what I wanted out of life independently. That's the first step, because if you try to do that together at the same time, you're gonna bring it together. But if you do it in the same, like, well, I want this, and it's easy for them to say, yeah, I want that too. When like it's not exactly what they want, because they want to align, they want to support you, especially as a supportive wife or husband, chasing or trying to keep up with the driven entrepreneurial spouse. You know, it's easy to be like, yeah, I want to support you in that, but then like never feeling comfortable sharing what they actually want. You know, I think it took you years to accept that I want something different, and that's okay.
And then like, the cool part about this process is it allows you to have the conversation because you bring the two ideas together, and then sometimes it's compromise. Sometimes it's like, oh, like once you talk through why is it that you want this style front door versus the style I want, like even down to like little details like that. And then you get a better understanding of like, well, ultimately this is what I'm picturing like the whole house looking like, and that's what I think this door will look pretty. Like it's those conversations that bring out a lot. Can I bring up the one I brought up?
Yeah.
Okay, I say door because I got in trouble one time. So what, like in one of these year-end conversations, I learned that Mike really appreciates our seasonal wreaths on the house, like just changing the decorations. I am not good with changing the decorations around the house.
And the first time she said this in front of like 300 entrepreneurs in a room at an event, and like
we've got
my friends, these entrepreneurs, I've probably gotten at least 24 wreaths sent to the house.
It made my
and
job
some of them were like fun and like really cool and like seasonal, and then like other ones had like dildos on it. So like,
you know, but it made my job easier. But
let's dig into the process. I think I've been trying to break it down to help explain it differently, and I want to kind of share how that was uncovered. There's 4 primary parts to the process. The first is having a vision or dream for yourself. We are huge on vision boards. We've utilized vision boards for the last 8 to 10 years, and we have things on there from the pets we want to the house we wanted to features we wanted. And I'll tell you, we have executed in 2022. We executed the last piece of that entire vision board. We had the cars we dreamed of, the house we dreamed of, the lifestyle we dreamed of, the support we dreamed of, the marriage we dreamed of, the sex we dreamed of. Like everything that we put on that vision board, we each built our own independently and then brought it together. But that vision board came to life holistically in 2022. And that was the first step. If you can't articulate with clarity what you want, you're never going to be able to dream together with somebody else. Like that was the first part, I think, that we were like, oh, we kind of want some of the same things, but like there's also things that we want differently.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I still struggle with the what do I want. I struggle with that mentality of like, it makes me selfish or I'm greedy. Like, you can get past that, but that's not to say it ever goes away, because since we did fulfill that like full vision board pretty much in 2022, like those feelings are still coming up. But it's okay to want things. It's okay to say like, this is what I like, this is what I want my life to look like, because you're going to work your ass off to get it. So, and
it's really important that that list or that vision board or the dreams or the goals or whatever it is yours. You know, we both struggled with, you know, analyzing our list of what other people thought. You know, what would Ryan think about this? Because Ryan and I have known each other for a long time. Like, well, is this a goal that Ryan would think is cool? And like, you have to take that out of the equation. He's sitting here, so it's easy to use him in the example. But maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your cousins, maybe it's your aunt, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your friends, maybe it's your spouse. But if you minimize or negotiate your dreams to the standard of others, you're never going to want them as bad as if they're fully yours.
Correct. And they're not living your life. So it doesn't matter. So
that's first part. Clarity of what you want in detail and documented, whether it's a list. I'm a big fan of a picture vision board. We've done that for a while. Huge part of that. Step 2, when we do our year-end trip, the first thing we do is we both sit down and we write down everything that we remembered from the year that was impactful or memorable to us. And so that's where the wreath thing came up. I was just going through the year, writing things down that were memorable to me and that were important to me. And some of those are really big accomplishments at work, really cool things I have with the family, or sometimes it's just something silly. Like, I really like that meal you made. Or I remember in the townhouse, because I hated the townhouse, but I remember coming home and there being a really nice season-specific wreath on the door. And I thought that was just like something that stood out to me. Like, she learned that about me, and even I learned that about me by just doing that. So there's 2 things we do. You kind of start the list on things you remember.
Yeah, like accomplishments, things that just, were memorable.
Yep. And then if you really want to dig deep, because you really want to realize how great of a year you had, go back through your camera, your photos on your phone. Go to January 1st and just scroll through the year. There's probably 20 or 30 things you forgot happened that actually mattered to you. And I think, especially as an entrepreneur, high performer, especially with even you and your own things, it's easy to forget some of the major things that you accomplished throughout the year and believe that, like, oh, I didn't get enough done, or this target didn't happen, or this goal didn't happen. But then ultimately realizing that you did a lot that year. So going through the pictures helps a ton.
Yeah. And it's fun.
And then bring the list together. She shares her list with me, I share my list with her, and we create a consolidated list. And there's always things that align that we both remember. But there's certain things I learned about her, because what you and your spouse value will change over time. You know, you're going to have, like, as your seasons grow, as your maturity grows, as things you get grow, as your level of income grows, what you value changes. And so, you know, your spouse learning about what you value because of the things that matter to you throughout the year is a huge way for them to just get reconnected to you and reassign things to you and re-understand what's valuable to you.
I don't think we do it often enough of, like, reflecting, right?
No.
Because, like, you can see how much you've grown in just, like, a couple months or the whole year. But, like, looking back through like, we did that this year, looking back through the pictures, and it was fun. Like, yeah, you see how the kids have grown and whatnot, but you also see, like, holy cow, this is where we came from at the beginning of the year.
So then we sit down after we do that, and that typically tends to influence the targets we set for the following year. You know, and a specific example for us, if we look at 2022, was a big business year because we wanted to buy the house. So it was more financial, more business. But now that we have some of these things, and we look at what we valued from 2022, specifically going into 2023, our list for family targets wildly exceeded our business targets this year, and it was vice versa in 2022. Sometimes what you value or what you remember or what was memorable influences what you do differently in the following year. And so then you sit down and you do your targets. This is not a process to rush. We start off with picking a word for the year. For 2023, mine is narrow.
Mine is cherish.
And so every year we have the words all the way back to 2015, the words we chose for the year, but we then create our targets for the year around, relationships, love, what you want to do in your home, your family, your business, your health and fitness, your spirituality, all these different things that go into it. It's a long process. You're going to get those first, 10 to 15 that stick out to you pretty quickly. But then as you go through and dig deeper into like what we're valuing, what we want to accomplish, I think we have 130 or 140 targets for this year, based on 7 different categories. And you're going to fail a lot of them, but you're going to get more done by dreaming bigger and dreaming for more. That's a big part of the process. And then the final piece, which I would say, actually, there's one more piece we added this year. We did our personal financial statement update. So all assets, all liabilities, like what is our personal net worth right now? And seeing how it evolves over years is pretty fun to watch. Yeah. Not always fun. No. Our personal finance, we are definitely worth less this year than last year because we acquired some debt in 2022 to accomplish some goals. But so you do the targets and the personal financial statement, basically a snapshot of that time. And the final piece we do is we take all the things we want to accomplish in the year. So date nights, family movie nights, vacations, work trips, personal trips, vacations, all of it. Everything you want to do. We literally have the entire calendar built for the whole year. So I can tell you when our date nights are, so I can plan around them, our family vacations, our work events, kids' birthdays, our birthdays, our vacations, vacations with my parents, vacations with her parents. It's all on the calendar for the entire year because I think, at least for us, it's easy to deprioritize things when they're not there. And for us, it's important that we're prioritizing things that matter to us most because there's always things that come up, especially for me, like I'm getting asked to go to this event, go to that event, speak here, speak there, do this thing, do that thing. And knowing when to say no is really important about what is that time. He's like, hey, can you do this thing in November? Yeah, I probably can. And there's no way to be for sure. And that's how people tend to over-promise and under-deliver is because they don't have a good grasp on it. So that's the process overall. I'd say, what's your biggest takeaway as we've evolved this process over the last 8 years?
I think my 2 favorite takeaways are the reflection and just looking back together and seeing what really meant something to you. And to your point, you tend to learn something about yourself as you're doing that too, to be like, wow, I didn't realize how much that really meant to me in the moment. But I still remember it so clearly. It was memorable. And then also just the communication aspect of it. Because life can get crazy. And sometimes, some of the things you talk about on that reflections, accomplishments, looking back list were things that some of the things we had this year were things we didn't get to. One that really hit home for me was the boys didn't get to go see Santa this year, which...
And we say didn't get to, we didn't prioritize it.
Correct. So we went...
It just didn't happen.
We went to the mall after the new year and they saw Santa's chair and that stung for me. But that was something that I specifically called out. We put on our plan for this year was make sure we get to go see the Easter Bunny, we get to go see Santa. But then other things that showed up on those things that we want to see happen this year, just the back and forth that happens while we're writing those out. Because the way we do it is he'll call out his things and we write on a Post-it note, and I write it on the Post-it note so we can actually read it.
I have terrible handwriting.
And I'll add mine in as we go, and he sticks them on the wall for us. But sometimes he'll holler something out, and I'm like, okay, explain that one to me, to make sure we're on the same page. That's a big part of it, is making sure you actually understand what's on the Post-it note. Because this is not just goals and dreams, but it's you're agreeing. Yeah, I'm on the same mission. I'm headed in that direction as well.
My biggest takeaway so far has been able to look back at what we valued in 2016, 2017, and what our goals were. 2016, 2017, 2018, we had the same goal to save $5,000. And we couldn't execute it. We just were not great with money. And to think right now, we couldn't even find a way to save $5,000.
We tried all the things.
We tried all the things and we just couldn't. And so like looking back and seeing how the mission has grown, how our priorities have grown, you know, seeing even just in the last 5 years, what we've been able to accomplish was a huge takeaway this year of the process works, and having the document of where you used to be, I think helps put some things into perspective of like where you are now and what you've actually been able to accomplish.
Yeah. One other thing I really enjoyed this year, looking back at our words. And like when you choose your word, you have like an idea of like why you chose that word.
Yeah.
When the year's over,
It always means something different.
like you realize like, oh, I manifested that word like really well, but not in the way that I thought I was going to. And it's really, really cool. It was so cool looking back at the last specifically the last couple of years to see how those words came to fruition, and just like, wow, that's not what I meant when I said it, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did.
Well, that's how we plan at the end of the year to keep us on the same page, keep us unified as a couple, keep us connected to each other, both, you know, in life and spirit and intimacy and everything else, to make sure that we're, you know, there's some negotiation, there's some compromise, but ultimately we're continuing to help each other grow and achieve the things we want. So we do that so that we can win fast and win often.